All right, so the last thing I pretty much talked about was FizzBuzz, or I told you guys to try this on your own. We're not going to be doing this today, but hopefully you guys were able to see the solutions and you guys were able to code it out on your own. Like I said, this is a popular coding question in the industry, or actually like for like entry-level positions or even internships, just so that they could see how you think and how you're able to structure your code, because there's so many ways that you could do this. Some might be a little bit easier or some might be more legible than another, which is the reason why this is a useful question. So I had my the TAs code out 2 different ways. If you have a different way, that's perfectly fine. But I specifically told them to code out 2 different ways. That way you guys could see just 2 different examples. Today now, we're going to talk about a new data type, and this is range. Range is specific to Python. There's not really a range data type in other languages, like for example, Java and C++. So this is something that is specific to Python. So you're going to see this once in Python. If you're planning to do your portfolio in Python, you might find this useful. Otherwise, if you're going to use a different language, that's perfectly fine too. So to create a range, there's 3 different arguments. So let me just write out the general, the gist, I guess, of this. If you want to create a range, you say range, and then there's 3 inputs in like 3 lines. Kind of like when you want to print something, you would put multiple things inside a parentheses. Range also has that, but instead of you printing things, this is you creating literally a range. So we'll just talk about this step by step. This might be a little bit confusing, but hopefully after we do like a whole bunch of practice, this might be a little bit easier. So this gets a consecutive set of numbers from the starting number. So this first number that appears right here, start. So from start to this right here is end, but there's a catch with this end right here, and I will talk about it in just a moment. So start to end using increments of, and then we have a step here. So we will talk about the importance of these numbers right now, actually. So when you have a starting number, that's the beginning of your range. The end, however, is not actually the very last number of your range. This end represents, so you want to get up to, can you see that? It might be a little bit difficult to see. Let me change to a different color. Up to, but not including end. So you're going to go up to that number, count all the way up to that number, but you don't actually include that very last number that is written right there. Step is your increment. So if your step is 2, you want to go in increments of 2. So if you start from 0 and your step is 2, you have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. If your start is 0, but your step is 5, then you have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and you just keep going all the way up until you get to end, but you don't include end. So we can see right here in this example, let's say I have range 3 to 7, 1. So we start at 3 and we'll move in increments of 1, so meaning it'll increase 1 by 1 by 1. Up to, but not including, 7. Not the best color choice that I have right there. Let's try this again. Up to, but not including 7. So we start at 3. We start at 3. And then we increment by 1. That gives us 4. Then we increment by 1 again. That gives us 5. We increment by 1 again. That gives us 6. We increment 1 again. That gives us 7. Remember, we want to go up to, but not including 7. So our range is this set of numbers, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you don't want 7 to actually be part of your range because of the restriction that is placed with end. What's also great about Python is that you kind of have some shortcuts at your disposal. So for example, if you don't have, so some shortcuts, if you don't have, if you only have 2 numbers, I guess. So if you have range and you only use 2 numbers, like this, Python will automatically assume your step size. So it'll assume that this is start and that this is end, and it'll assume that step size is 1 if you leave it like this. So for example, if I have range 3 to 7, this works exactly the same as this right here. Because it's the step size is 1 in the question that in the example that we just did. The step size we're assuming is to be 1 in the shortcut method when you just leave out that 1. So this will give you the same exact range, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you only have 1 number in your range, so let's say I have range and just 1 number, then it makes 2 assumptions. This is your end. It'll assume that your step size is 1, and it'll also assume that your start is 0. And we could take a look at this example right here, which you might not be able to see, because, or you might not be able to see me highlighting it because it's in yellow. This example right here, this is range 6. Looks like this is lagging a little bit. Hold on a second. Hopefully it'll catch up. If not, I might have to stop sharing my screen and then reshare it. Looks like that's what I need to do. Give me 1 second. All right, we're back. All right. Okay. Back to where I was. Okay, so we have Python. Okay, the range is 6. So remember, we assume that the start is 0. Let me use a different color for this. We assume that the start is 0. So that's the reason why we start at 0 here. The step is 1, so you can see it incrementing by 1 each time. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we stop at 6. That's because our end that we used was 6. So we stop at 6, but we don't actually include 6. So the range is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does anyone have any questions or any doubts here? Because we're about to do a whole bunch of examples that I hope might be helpful for you guys. So we're going to do some practice. I have a whole bunch of these cases. So what numbers would be included in the following range? So the first one I have is range 1 to 11. So remember, this would fall under this case right here. It would fall under this case right here, where you only have 2 inputs. So that means the step is automatically set to be 1. So what would the range of numbers be for the first one? 1 through 10, perfect. So step is 1. So that means that our range would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There should be an 11 here, but because we don't include this 11, because that is just the rule of range, it's not there. So we go up to, but not including 11. Then what about the second one where we just want range 11? So if we have range 11, that's only one input, which means that we assume that the step is 1 and the start is 0. Very good. So right here we have step is 1 and start is 0. So yes, the range would be 0 through 10, or all numbers, all integers 0 through 10. So it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's normally an 11, but then remember we don't include the 11. Then what about this one right here? Range from 1 to 11 with a step of 2. So this is our start, this is our end, and this is our step. 1, 3, 5, 7. Very good. That's exactly what our range would be. So we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Normally, if you add 2 to this, you get 11. But remember, this is not inclusive. We don't include the 11. So it's just 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. You don't include that 11. Now this one we have something a little bit different. We've always been incrementing our numbers. Now we are decrementing our numbers. We are going -1 now. So this one might be a little bit tricky too. So start, and this is our end. Still not inclusive though. And then we have the step. What would this be? Very good. This is going to be 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're done because we don't want to include that 1 there. It's not inclusive. What do you think we do if we have a range of -12 then? This one's a trick question. Very good. We do nothing. Oops. This would be nothing. Because this means that our start is 0, our end is -12, and our step is not 0. Our step is 1. Ah, our step is 1, which is impossible for you to do. You can't start from 0 and you can't increment. You can't do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and expect to get to -12. So this is nothing, pretty much. Actually, I don't want to use the word nothing. Yeah, actually nothing. We'll just use none. So this is nothing. So hopefully you guys understand how to interpret ranges, but now we're going to go into making our own ranges. So how would you write the range if you want the following numbers? So most of these have more than one answer. So we'll try to write down as many as we can for each one of these. So we'll do this one first. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How would you write this? Good. You could write range 0 to 7. What else can you write? Range 7. This is also good. What else can you write? There's one more. Very good. Range 0, 7, 1. All of these work. Remember, for this one right here, this one right here is 0, 7. If you do it like that, that means start is 0, and then your end is 7. So you count up to 7, but not including 7. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to use this one right here, just range 7, it's automatically assumed that your start is 0 and that you are moving in increments of 1. So you 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 again. And that's the same thing as this right here. So all 3 of these answers are good. It's just totally up to you which one you like more. How about this one right here? We're starting from 2 and we go all the way up to 12. Perfect. Range 2, 14, and 2. Are there more? Is there more than one solution for this? Is there another way that we could write this? If you guys are just being too shy and you guys are thinking no, then yes, then you're right. There is no other way that you could potentially write this. In the default values that you have, the only default values that you can have are going to be start 0 and then step 1. As you can see, the numbers that we have here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, it doesn't start at 0, first off, so you can't use a shortcut for that. And then also the step size is 2. You're moving in increments of 2, so it won't work for that one either. Oh, I guess you can do that as well. Someone also recommended the use of range 2, 13, and 2, and that would also work just fine as well. That would also work. Did not think of that. Because for this one, you would go, when you get to 12, and then you add another 2 to it, that would give you 14, which is already past 13. So you won't use that number as part of your range. So 12 would be the cutoff for what we have here. Nice. And then we can do this one. How would we do this range? Or how would we write out this range? Good. So someone said range 0, -6, -1. So for this one right here, we start from 0. We're going up to, but not including -6. So because we are decrementing, we want to write -6 in there instead of -5 or instead of -4, because we're going downwards. We're like decreasing our range. We're going in a decreasing fashion. And you can see that we're decreasing by using -1. So this would be the correct answer for what we need. I don't think there's another way to write this, but you guys have already surprised me once. So if you do think of something else, feel free to let me know. Now we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. How would we write out this range? Okay, yes. So there's going to be a lot of answers for this. So we have range. Someone said 10, 70, 10. This would work. Pretty much any number, the numbers that you could put here could be between 60, not 60, 61 through 70. 61 through 70, all of those numbers could fit in there. So if that's because your start number is 10, you're going in increments of 10 as well. So that's why you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And as long as that number is greater than or equal to 61 and up to 70, it'll give you the same results. The reason for this, once again, I just want to talk about this again, is that if you have 60, oh no, it's not showing up. Maybe this keeps giving me issues. I might have to reconnect it with a cable instead. So if we have 60 and we add 10 to it, oopsies, we know that that will give us 70. So as long as this number in here will allow us to make the cutoff for 70 as 70, which is why we have a combination or any of these numbers, you'll be okay. Now we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. What would your potential range for this be? What color have I not used? I haven't used red yet. Oh no, I did use red. I used green. Oh, my chat is gone. I have to reopen that. So what about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0? Perfect. Range. And we start at 5, we're decrementing, so we're going -1, like we're going down, 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 down. Since we want to go up to or down to 0, we want to have our limit set at -1 instead of 0. Otherwise, if we write 0, 0 will be excluded from our range, and we don't want to do that. So it looks like you guys are doing pretty well with range. So let's go ahead and move on into for loops. For loops in Python are pretty different from for loops in, I would say, like Java, C++, or JavaScript. If you have prior knowledge of for loops, it might help a little bit, but it'll be pretty different. For loops in Python were not designed to be like while loops. Rather, they were more designed to be like an iterator. And you guys will see how convenient that this could be later on, probably next, right after Thanksgiving. That's what we're going to talk about. So actually, right before Thanksgiving, that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to introduce the loop now, the for loop. It's very similar to a while loop in that you can kind of format it in the same way. Hopefully you guys remember this code right here. This is how to print the asterisk 100 times. But now I've written out 2 different ways for you to do this code using a for loop. These are 2 different for loops that you can use. Hopefully you guys are able to recognize this right here. So a for loop is almost like a for, if you were to write it out in English, you want to say, write it out, or think of it, I guess, as a for each loop. So when I have this right here, it's for each count in the range of 0 to 100 to 1. And what would 0 to 100 comma 1 be? What numbers would those give you? Zero through 99, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 all the way up to 99. So count will take one of these, we'll take the image, I guess, of one of these values at a time. So the first time we loop, count is 0. And the second time, count is 1. And the next time, count will be 2. And the next time, count will be 3. Then count will be 4. Then count will be 5. So every single time the loop runs, the for loop will run, count will be a different number each time. Kind of like what we did in the while loop. However, in the while loop, we did it manually. We had to program that manually because we didn't use range. What we used instead was our own count variable, where we had to add 1 to count each time. And we were comparing it and seeing if it was less than 100. Whereas our range, the count is going to take the form of each number in the range, which is already set to be between, or is set to be numbers in between 0 to 99. So they do exactly the same thing. They just take different forms in different images. So if I were to make things, I guess, a little bit easier, hopefully I could draw some comparisons between it so you guys could see some similarities. Almost everything that can be written as a for loop can be written as a while loop. So, which is kind of nice. With Python loops, however, it is a little bit difficult to say that all while loops can be written as for loops, but in other languages, that is definitely true. So if you hear someone say that all while loops can be for loops and all for loops can be while loops, I would agree with it, unless it's Python. Then it becomes a little bit trickier. But it's okay. We shouldn't be doing anything too complex with the loops. So don't worry about the conversions. Do one that you're comfortable with, that you can write out clean code with. So let's talk about the variable declaration. So if you guys remember the variable declaration in the while loop, it was this right here. It was the count is equal, whoops. I don't know why I keep pressing that. In the while loop, it was the count is equal to 0. Or I guess count. It was creating the count. And then also that's kind of like a counter initialization. So I guess I should make it kind of bigger here because both of these fall under one line of code. And that was count is equal to 0. So the counter initialization and the variable declaration were the same thing, or can be written in one line for a while loop. However, for Python, or for loops, it's a little bit different. They're not done together per se. This right, oops. Ugh, I don't know why I keep doing that. This right here, this count, is our variable declaration. And then this right here, this 0, is our counter initialization for our for loop. So writing this out here, for our for loop, our variable declaration would be there, and the counter initialization for our for loop would be this thing right here. Then we have a condition, which is count is less than 100. So this is the condition. This is the condition. This is our condition right here. Count is less than 100 for the while loop. However, for the for loop, we don't really have a condition. We just know up to what number we need to go to. And that is why we have just this number right here, that 100. We have the body. So the body for both of these are pretty much identical. It's just a matter of where you think you need to place it. So the body here is just the printing, the asterisk. We have the printing, the asterisk right here. And then we have our incrementer / decrementer, which is going to be the step size for the for loop. And it's pretty definitive for the while loop. So we have the while loop. It's this thing right here. Whereas for the for loop, it is that step size from before. So I know this is a little bit confusing, but if I were to summarize it as one line of like how a for loop would work, it's for and then the variable, so I guess your count, in range from your start, end, and then incrementation. And this is exactly what we're going to use for all of our examples that are coming up next. We will pretty much redo all of these algorithms, but instead of using while loops, we're going to use for loops. Let's go ahead and just get started. Hopefully that will clear up any difficulties with this topic, but I don't think it's too bad. This was our, this is what we did to print out values from 1 to 100. And we wrote out, I left in all of the start, condition, what the action or the body was, and what the incrementation was. So now what we want to do is rewrite this into a range. So first off, our range, remember, actually, let's write it up here. Range is always going to be start, end, and then the incrementation or decrementation, which we kind of already have written out. How would we write this range statement that will give us all the possible numbers that we will need? So where do we start? Let's start with that. Okay, that will work. So 1, 101, 1. So the reason for this, 1 is our start. As you can see, that is our start that is indicated right here. Starting value is 1. We want to go to up to 100, but also include 100, which means this is the same thing as x is less than 101, because if we just write 100 in there, then we will lose the 100 as a value. So you want to use 101 instead, because it's not including this value here. So 101 is the better choice. And then finally, we know we have to increment by 1. So this is why our step is 1. So let's go ahead and code this out now. 1 second. Okay, so hopefully you guys are able to see this. We're going to code it out. So remember our general for loop syntax. It's for, and then you write the variable name, like whatever variable you want it to be. It's just going to vary for the variable in range, and then we have start, end, and then the step size. After that, colon, and then you will write in whatever you want to execute. So like the body of your for loop, like whatever you want to run continuously. So in this case, we want to print out 1 through 100, which is why we said for, and then we're just going to use our variable is x. So for x, you could call it count, you could call it whatever you want, but I'm going to use x. So for x in range, starting from 1, ending at 101, and then the step is 1, we have this range. What do I want to do inside of my for loop? What do I want to continuously repeat over and over and over again? Any suggestions? Oops. It would be print x. X will take on the form of every single number within the range. So first it'll be 1, then it'll be 2, then it'll be 3, and then we just keep going. So if you run it, we can see all the numbers that print 1 through 100. So let's actually go back to literally a drawing board and see what happened. Oopsies. So what we did was for x in range 1 to 101 to 1, print x. We established earlier that if we were to do this range 1, 101, 1 would give us the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 98, 99, and 100. I also told you that when you see something like this, you could say it as for each, and then x in the range of 1 to 100, and your step size is 1. So for each x, so for each number in the range of 1 to 101. So x would be 1 the first time. So the first time the loop runs, x would be 1. So it would naturally follow like what the body wants it to do, or like what this what like the what you need to execute in there, what that block is, and that is print x. So it'll print 1. Now that it's reached the end of this for loop, it'll circle back up, and then it'll get the next x value, meaning the next number in the range, which is 2. So the second time the loop runs, x is 2, and when it falls down into here, it'll print what x currently is, and that is 3. So it'll, 2. So it'll print 2. Now that it's reached the bottom, it'll circle back up, and then it'll get the next value in the range, which is 3. Oopsies. 3. So x would be 3, and then we would print out the number 3. Now that you've reached the bottom here, you circle back up and get the next number in the range, which is 4. So the fourth time it goes in the loop, x would be 4. And now that it's still like you're still within the range, you print x, which is currently 4, so it will print 4. So let's say we've done more, and let's say we're currently at 98. So x is equal to 98. We would fall in the block, which is print x, and that means it'll print 98. Now that it's reached the bottom, it'll circle back up and then get the next number in the range. Since we already did 98, we would do 99 next. So x is 99. And it will go inside that code block, print 99, and it'll circle back around here, get the next number in the range, which is 100. So x is equal to 100. It'll print out 100. You have exhausted all of the numbers in your range, so you're done. So that's how it prints out numbers 1 through 100. Anyone have any questions? So that was not too bad, hopefully. Let's move on to the next one, which is 100 to 0 this time. So instead of 1 to 100, we're doing 100 all the way down to 0. So once again, everything that you need is on this slide. What would our range be? What would the range that we need to use be? So remember, start and step. Oh, this should be, oh, did I use the same? Sorry, that should be 100. I don't know why it says 1. Very good. So 100, -1, -1. So our start value is supposed to be 100. So we have our start here and our start here. Now the end is a little bit tricky because we want to end when we get, or it's I is greater than or equal to 0, meaning you have to include 0. Because you want to include 0, you can't use 0 here. So instead, you want to think of this as I is greater than -1 instead. So that's how we get this -1 here, which is our end. And because we are decrementing by 1 each time, we want to use a -1 right here. You can see right here that the action is going to be just to print I. So let's go ahead and try this code and see how we could translate a while loop into a for loop, or for each loop, I guess. So for this one is printing 100 to 0. We have a for each loop. So for each, we'll call it I, just to mimic the while loop. We use the variable I for that one. So for each I in range from 100 to -1 with a decrementation of -1, what did we want to do again? Very good. We want to print I each time. So that's it. When we run this, you can see that what ran starting from 100, 100 all the way down to 0. So that's it. Let's go ahead and just quickly run through this code. So this one was, oops, not this one. So we'll do, we had for each I in range from 100 to -1, decrementing by -1. So once again, in English, is for each I in the range of 100 to -1 with a step size of -1. We wanted to print I. What was this as a range? How do we write, like what numbers consist or make up the range? Very good. So it's all numbers 100 to 0. So 100, 99, 98, to 3. Let's not do 3. Let's do 210. Once again, when we say for each I, that means I will take the place or will hold the value of every single value in the range in sequential order. So first time I would be equal to the first value that is presented, or the first value in the range, which is 100. Then we go ahead and fall inside of the code block, execute it, which is print I, which is currently 100. Then you go back up, you see this for I in range, and then you will try this one right here, 99. So I is equal to 99. And then go inside the code block, which is 99. So we're printing I is 99. So let's print 99. We're going to go back up, circle back up right here into the next number of the range. So we already did 99, so we do 98. So I is equal to 98. When we fall inside the code block, we print I. I is currently 98, so we print 98, and then we'll just keep going till we get to, let's say we're at 2. So we're at I. We are at I is equal to 2. So we fall inside the code block, we print I, so we print 2, and then we're done with that. So we'll circle back up for the next and get the next number in the range, which is 1. So now we have 1, I is equal to 1. So we print 1 as according to our body of the for loop. And then we loop it back up, get the next number in the range, which is 0. So I is 0. You print 0 because that is your current I value. And when you go back up to get another number in the range, we have exhausted all the numbers in the range. So we are done here. And that's it. So far we have completed 2 of the programs. Let's see if we could do a third one, or at least get started on the third one. I'm pretty sure we could do this one. So this one right here, printing even numbers 2 through 100. So remember, we did 2 different ways for this. This is the way that I want you guys to focus on right here, just by looking at the code block right here. This is where we incremented each even number by 2. So we incremented a number by 2 each time. So what would the range be for this? Two, 101, 2, good. 2, 101, 2. You could have also done like range 2, 102, 2. Both of these will work. Yeah, both of these will work. So let's go ahead and just try to code this out. That way we could hopefully, actually, let me just explain it a little bit more just in case for those of you guys who might be seeing this for the first time. We have our start value, which is 2, which matches up with this start value that we have. Then we have our end value. So this is our end value. You could use either 101 or 102. This is because our while loop was originally while v is less than or equal to 100. With v is less than or equal to 100, that means you want to go up to but include 100, which takes away, if you just write 100 in here, that takes away the 100. It doesn't include 100. So you have to go a little bit beyond 100, which is why 101 and 102 are perfect candidates to be placed in here. Regardless of which one you use, they will both work. And then we know we have to increment by 2 each time, which is why this is our 2 and this is a 2 as well. So let's go ahead and get into coding this. Right. So this is printing even numbers 2 through 100, part 1. We'll do part 2 next week. We had our for loop, which was for each, we'll just call it num, for each number in the range of 2 to 101, 2 to 101 in increments of 2. We want to, what do we want to do here? Inside the body of the for loop. Perfect. We want to print the number. So print num. So if we run this, you can see that we start at 2. We start here at 2. And then the last number we print is 100. And all the numbers we're moving in increments of 2. If I had decided to use 102 instead, so actually let me, that's fine. So if I just go ahead and run it, it's the same thing. 2, and then it stops at 100. So there's more than one answer to this. So actually, let me just write the other one just in case. For num in range 2, 101 to 2. This works also. And then for the sake of practice, we'll just do one more walkthrough and then we'll just be done for today's lesson. And then next week, we should be done with for loops. And then we'll get into a new topic. Okay, so this one was, okay. Now we're going to do the code that we just wrote. So print, jumping the gun. So we had for num in range, and we started from 2. We went to 101, and we had 2. You could use either 101 or 102, remember that. So there was more than one answer to this. But regardless, what would this range come out to be? What numbers would we get? Yes, 2 through 100, but remember we're moving in increments of 2, so it'd be 2, 4, 6, all the way up to 98 and 100. So when we have this entire statement, this is like saying for each num in the range of 2 through 100 with increments of 2, we are going to print the number, print num. So when we start off, we have I is equal to the first value of, or not I, num is equal to the first value of our range, which was 2. And when we go inside of the loop, we see that print num, and num was 2, so it will just print 2. After that, you will circle back around and get the next num in the range, which is 4. So num is 4. And it will be printed because we have this command right here. So print 4. And after that, it'll circle, oops, thought I had the laser pointer. So it'll circle back up here and we'll get the next number in the range, which is 6. And 6 will be printed because we have this command here. And then we're just going to pretend that we completed all the way up to 98, where we have num is 98. And we will print out that number because that's our command, print num. So print 98, and it will circle back around, get the next number inside of the range, which is 100. And inevitably, 100 will be printed out. And when it circles back around, there's nothing else left in the range, so we're done. We've gotten that last value, we printed it out, and that's it. So that's how we get the values 2, 4, 6, 8, and just keep going. So next week, we'll wrap up for loops. I don't have time to go over another example. But the first one that we will go over is going to be this one right here, but in a different method.